My name is Madeline Carter, and I've lived long enough to know when a door doesn't open out of love but out of obligation. That night, as I stood on the front steps of my son's home in Westbury, holding a small blue gift bag, I already knew something was off. The porch light flickered overhead, but no one rushed to greet me. No 5-year-old birthday boy with cake on his cheeks. No warm hug from Nathan, the boy I once nursed through fevers and breakups. Only silence and the hollow echo of my knock. When the door finally swung open, it was Haley, my daughter-in-law, draped in a silk jumpsuit, her hair slicked back like a television anchor, her expression blank. "Oh, you made it," she said flatly, as if I'd just walked in off the street uninvited. I smiled, offering the gift bag. "I knitted something for Alex. I hope he likes blue." My voice sounded too cheerful, even to my own ears. She didn't look at the bag. She looked at my coat, my shoes, the cardigan I'd worn because the spring wind was still sharp this time of year. Her lips pressed together. "Everyone's already seated. You're the last to arrive." No, "happy to see you." No, "come in." Just that clipped tone, like I was a delivery person with bad timing. I stepped into their foyer, the sound of clinking glasses and polite laughter drifting from the dining room. For a second, I imagined this might still be okay. Maybe Haley was just tense. Maybe Nathan would wave from across the table, and my grandson would shout my name with frosting on his face. But then I heard it. A voice. Hers. From inside the room. "Someone get security. Get this pauper away from the table." And just like that, the clinking stopped. Every eye in that room turned to me, to the poor old woman in a sensible cardigan, to the embarrassment Haley wanted removed before the dessert was served. I didn't say a word. I didn't ask why. I didn't cry. I turned. I walked. And as the door shut behind me with a soft, certain click, I made a decision. Tomorrow, before Haley even clocked into the company where she thought she was climbing the ladder, I'd be waiting. On the 37th floor, behind the desk she didn't know existed. In the office she had no idea was mine. Because you don't get to humiliate a woman like me and walk away without learning exactly whose table you tried to push her from. I remember the phone call from Nathan like it had happened 5 minutes ago. His voice was thin, almost rehearsed. "Hey, Mom. Alex's birthday is next Saturday. We're just doing something small. You should come by around 5. I'd smiled into the receiver, already imagining the cake, the hugs, the way my grandson's face lit up when I told him stories. I spent 2 evenings picking out the softest yarn for the sweater I planned to knit him. Blue, because last month he said it was his new favorite color. But when I pulled up outside their home, something about the setup felt wrong. The driveway was full BMWs. A Tesla. Something European I couldn't name. I found a spot half a block down and walked in heels I hadn't worn since Nathan's wedding, clutching the gift bag like it might steady me. Inside, the house smelled like citrus candles and catered salmon. There was no music, just the low hum of adult voices, polished, polite, and full of their own importance. The kind of people who said things like, "We summer in Nantucket," without irony. I stood in the hallway for nearly a minute, unnoticed. Then Alex spotted me. His little voice shot out like a flare. "Grandma!" He ran, arms open, all joy and chocolate icing, and for a moment, nothing else mattered. I knelt and hugged him tight, feeling his heart beat through his chest. "I brought you something," I whispered, "but you'll have to close your eyes when I give it to you." He giggled, but just then, Haley's hand landed on his shoulder like a leash. "Alex, remember our talk. Go wash up before you touch anyone, okay?" Her eyes flicked to me, cold and clear. "He'll see you later." She ushered him away before I could answer. And I stood up alone, my knees aching not from age, but from how quickly joy had been stripped out of that room. The dining room looked like something out of a lifestyle magazine, wide oak table, 12 matching chairs, gold-rimmed china I'd never seen before. Probably from Haley's mother. Everything screamed curated perfection, down to the floral centerpiece that blocked half the guests from seeing one another. Nathan was already seated halfway down the table, boxed in by people I didn't recognize, men with cufflinks, women in pressed neutrals and designer heels. I caught his eye. He offered a brief smile before quickly turning back to his plate. Haley pointed to an empty chair at the far end. "There," she said quietly. I walked the length of the room, past murmured greetings and half-hearted nods, and sat beside a man in a pale blazer who never looked up from his phone. The chair on my left was empty. Across from me sat a woman who appeared to be evaluating my presence like she might an outdated menu item. I kept my hands folded in my lap. The appetizers were already being served beet tartare on porcelain spoons. A server placed one in front of me. I thanked him softly, but no one else seemed to notice. Halfway through the main course, the room settled into a rhythm of half-laughed stories and shallow bragging. I heard talk of market rebounds, a golf club in Sarasota, someone's child getting early acceptance to Yale. And then Haley's voice cut through. "So, Madeline, you're still doing that cleaning business, right?" A few heads turned. Not all, but enough. I straightened in my chair. "I own the business." "Yes." "Oh," she said, with a smile too wide, too sweet. "How entrepreneurial." "She does office cleaning," she added to the woman beside her. "Very humble work." That woman gave me a small nod and turned her body slightly away. The roast on my plate had gone cold, but I wasn't hungry anyway. That night wasn't about food. It was about being reminded where they thought I belonged. Dessert was being served when Alex escaped the kids' table and climbed into my lap. His fingers were sticky with chocolate, his eyes bright with excitement. "Grandma," he whispered, "will you tell me the one about the Pirate Queen again?" It was our story, the one I'd made up for him when he was 3, about a woman who didn't wait to be rescued, who sailed her own ship and never bowed to kings. I brushed his hair from his forehead. "Of course, sweetheart." But Haley's voice snapped like a whip. "Alex, get down! You'll ruin your clothes." She marched over, heels clicking like threats on hardwood. "Off now." He hesitated, clinging to my arm. "Haley, it's all right. He just wanted," I said now. She pulled him off my lap with just enough force to make him yelp. Then she turned, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I think it's time for you to leave." The room fell silent. Even the man beside me finally looked up. "Haley," Nathan said quietly. "That's my mother." Her face hardened. "Your mother doesn't belong at a table like this. Look at her." She didn't say it, but we all heard it anyway. Poor, unpresentable, embarrassing. I stood. My knees didn't tremble this time. "Security!" she called out, though there was none. "Please escort this woman out. She's disturbing our dinner." I didn't look at Nathan. I already knew I wouldn't find him there. I walked through the front door, the gift bag still unopened in my hand, the cardigan I'd carefully chosen now clinging to me like shame. But once I reached the car, I caught sight of myself in the rear-view mirror, tired eyes, silver hair mussed from Alex's hug, lips pressed into a straight line. Let them think what they wanted. Because what Haley didn't know was that tomorrow morning, I'd walk into the executive entrance of Lanebrook Digital, ride the private elevator to the top, and sit behind the desk that signed her paychecks. She wanted to teach me about status. I was about to teach her about power. I arrived at the office an hour earlier than usual the next morning. The halls of Lanebrook Digital were still dim, elevators humming to life, lights flickering on floor by floor like the city slowly blinking awake. Miguel at the security desk looked up from his thermos. "Morning, Mrs. Carter. Everything all right?" I nodded, too tired to smile. "Just couldn't sleep." Inside my office, northeast corner, 37th floor, the skyline stretched pale and soft beyond the glass. But I didn't pause to admire it. I dropped my bag, powered on my computer, and typed in the name I now had a reason to examine. Haley Trask Carter. Marketing coordinator. Hired 20 months ago. Promoted to campaign lead after 12. Her file was clean on the surface, bright bullet points, glowing project reports, leadership praise. But beneath that polish, things began to crack. 3 employee complaints all dismissed. All from workers over 50. One mentioned being called outdated. Another noted being excluded from meetings they'd once led. One file included an internal message from Haley herself. "We need fresh minds on this. No offense, but some of our senior staff are more museum than movement." I kept reading, notes from HR. Performance flags quietly documented but never escalated. Patterns. It wasn't just about me anymore. I sat back in my chair, fingers steepled beneath my chin. This wasn't one snide comment over dinner. This was systemic disrespect. And worse, she was getting away with it because no one ever pushed back. Until now. I picked up the phone and buzzed Helen, my assistant of 15 years. "Helen, I need personnel files. Quietly. Start with digital campaigns. Any records about Haley's interactions with older staff, emails, reviews, complaints, all of it." Helen didn't ask why. She knew my voice when something was no longer just personal but about principle. "Understood," she said. "I'll bring everything to you within the hour." By mid-morning, the files were stacked neatly on my desk, Helen's doing, of course. She even color-coded the tabs. Performance, complaints, team feedback, HR correspondence. I flipped through them, reading line by line, connecting dots no one else had bothered to. Haley's division had the highest turnover in the company. Nearly every exit interview from a staff member over 50 mentioned either exclusion, condescension, or indirect pressure to resign. Some reports were subtle, a shrugging reference to feeling out of place or new management priorities. Others were damning. She implied my experience was a liability. She said clients didn't want grandparent energy in presentations. She called me slow, in front of interns. The pieces formed a picture I couldn't unsee. Not just insensitivity, a pattern, a mindset, a quiet war against people who reminded Haley that youth doesn't equal wisdom. I called Jennifer from HR. "Bring me the org chart for digital campaigns, and close the door behind you." 20 minutes later, she sat across from me, pale and stiff. I laid out what I'd found, one sheet at a time. She read in silence, nodding occasionally, then met my eyes. "What would you like me to do?" "Effective immediately," I said. "Transfer Haley Carter to food services, specifically dishwashing in the employee cafeteria." Jennifer blinked. "That's significant." "It's part of a new initiative," I said calmly. "Rotational immersion. Management gaining first-hand insight into operations. Frame it however you need to." "And if she refuses?" I didn't smile. "Then she's welcome to seek employment elsewhere. There are always companies looking for dynamic personalities." Jennifer swallowed and nodded. As she left, I stood at the window again. The sun was higher now, reflecting off rooftops, casting sharp light across the city. Haley would walk in tomorrow, expecting business as usual. She'd find something else waiting. Not punishment, not humiliation, just reality, served hot, on a stainless steel tray. The basement cafeteria at Lanebrook smelled of dish soap and steam. Plates clattered, timers beeped, and the roar of industrial washers hummed beneath the fluorescent lights. It was honest work, hot, loud, repetitive, but it kept the company running more than any corner office did. I stood at the service entrance wearing a borrowed uniform from facilities. Baseball cap pulled low, clipboard in hand. 68 years old, but I still fit in just fine among the other women who'd spent decades on their feet. Haley had been scrubbing dishes for 2 days now. I watched her through the glass panel above the kitchen line. The posture I once saw at conference tables, confident, dismissive, had given way to a slouched back and jerky movements. Her nails, once flawless, were chipped and stained, her hair tied into a lopsided bun. But what struck me most was the scowl that hadn't left her face since she stepped into this world. "This is insane," she muttered to the woman beside her, a 50-something named Maria, who'd worked in food services since before Haley started college. "I have a degree from No. I used to manage 7-figure portfolios, and now I'm washing forks like some—" Maria didn't let her finish. "Like some what?" Haley blinked. "Nothing. I didn't mean—" "We all have degrees," Maria said, flatly. We just use ours differently. I watched as Haley turned back to the sink, cheeks flushed, lips tight. Then she rolled her eyes the moment Maria looked away. No reflection, no humility, just contempt wrapped in frustration. My phone buzzed. A message from Nathan. Haley's going through something at work. New assignment. She's stressed. Maybe dinner this weekend? Just the three of us? I stared at the message a long moment before replying. I'll think about it. But I already knew the answer. Some people break open when life humbles them. Others just sharpen the blade they think they've lost. I scheduled the meeting for 10 o'clock sharp and made sure Haley would be escorted up through the executive elevator, the one with mirrored walls and polished brass railings. The same elevator she'd walked past 100 times without ever imagining where it led. Helen's voice came through the intercom right on time. Your 10 o'clock is here, Mrs. Carter. Send her in. I kept my back to the door, watching the skyline from my office window as footsteps clicked across the marble floor behind me. Then her voice, laced with confusion and annoyance. I think there's been a mistake. I was told to come up here about my transfer. I don't know why. I turned slowly. Her words stopped mid-breath. She stared at me like I'd appeared out of a fog she couldn't explain. You? She blinked. Why are you? I work here, I said calmly. Just like you. No, you said at dinner you said you ran a cleaning business. I said I owned a business. You assumed the rest. She took a step back, her breath caught between disbelief and dawning horror. You're the CEO. For 35 years. Her jaw clenched. If I had known... Ah, I interrupted. So your behavior depends on who you think people are? That's not what I meant. I gestured to the chair across from mine. Please sit. We have some things to discuss. She didn't move. Her face flickered through a dozen emotions. Panic, calculation, defiance. I've been scrubbing dishes for 3 days, she said through clenched teeth. This is personal revenge. No, I said. It's a lesson. One you've failed so far. She stared at me, blinking fast. This wasn't the world she thought she ruled. And she had just met the woman who built it. They arrived 15 minutes late. Nathan looked like he hadn't slept in days, shirt untucked, eyes tired. Haley was back in her polished armor. Perfect hair. Flawless blazer. That controlled smile she used like a shield. We sat in my small living room, the kind with mismatched throw pillows and fading family photos. Haley didn't look at any of them. Nathan cleared his throat. Mom, Haley's told me what happened at work. She thinks there's been a misunderstanding. Is that what we're calling it now? I asked. Haley jumped in. You used your position to humiliate me. You made me clean dishes because of what happened at the birthday party. That's abuse of power. I tilted my head. And calling security on your mother-in-law in front of your son's friends. That's what, etiquette? Nathan flinched. I didn't know who you were, Haley snapped. If I had... That's the problem, I said. You judged me based on appearance. You decided I was beneath you and treated me accordingly. You didn't need to know who I was to show basic decency. Nathan shifted forward, his voice soft. Is it true? About the complaints? The transfers? Yes, I said. 3 formal age. Discrimination reports in less than 2 years. All dismissed by supervisors too impressed with her charm to see the pattern. He turned to Haley. Is that true? Her silence said more than a confession. You've been coming home every night, blaming everyone but yourself, he said quietly. And all this time, you were the reason. Haley stood. This is insane. She set me up. She's been spying. No, Nathan said firmly. She's been watching. Because you gave her a reason to. His voice cracked. And I let it happen. At Alex's party. I said nothing. He looked at me. I'm sorry, Mom. I should have stood up. I should have seen it sooner. I didn't answer. Not yet. Because I could feel it. We weren't done. Not until someone took real responsibility. The silence, after Nathan's apology, stretched longer than any of us could fill. Haley crossed her arms. So what now? You're just going to believe everything she says because she's your mother? She didn't need to say anything, Nathan said. I've been watching you for months. The way you talk to waiters. The way you talk about people when they're not in the room. I just didn't want to admit it. Oh, please, Haley scoffed. She set me up. She had me cleaning grease off trays like a janitor. That's not justice. That's spite. I stood. You want to know what's spiteful? Humiliating someone who raised the man you married, calling me a pauper in front of 20 people. Pulling your son away from the only person who told him bedtime stories without a screen in her hand. Haley's mouth opened, but no words came out. Nathan looked at her like he was finally seeing her without filters, without pretense. You made me ashamed of my own mother. His voice cracked. I let you, and I've regretted it every day since that dinner. Haley's eyes filled, but the tears were sharp, not sorrow, but fury. You'll regret this. You think she's so perfect? Look where she lives. You think that's power. She built an empire from this living room, Nathan said, while raising me alone, while never once looking down on anyone for how they dressed or what job they had. He walked to the door and opened it. You need to go. She froze. You're serious? Has a heart attack? Nathan, we'll talk about custody, through attorneys. She turned to me one last time, eyes blazing. You wanted this. You planned all of this. No, I said calmly. You planned it the moment you chose cruelty over kindness. Then she was gone. And in her place stood my son. Not broken, just finally ready to rebuild. 6 months later, the cafeteria felt quieter. The harsh clatter of dishes had softened into something rhythmic, like the sound of people working with purpose, not dread. A resignation letter arrived on my desk that morning. Formal, detached, wrapped in professional phrases that said nothing but avoided everything. Haley Trask Carter was leaving Lanebrook Digital to pursue new opportunities. No acknowledgement, no regret, just an exit, carefully worded for future interviews. I signed the acceptance form without hesitation. Some people learn from consequences. Others endure them until they find another ladder to climb. But I wasn't thinking about Haley when I walked through the executive hallway that afternoon. I was thinking about the people who'd stayed, the ones who'd been ignored, talked over, pushed out quietly over time. They were no longer silent. Janet Rodriguez was now leading her own floor. Maria received a full scholarship for her grandson's college. And HR no longer filtered complaints, they came straight to my inbox. Not because I needed control, but because accountability doesn't trickle down. It starts from where the ceilings are highest. Nathan and I spoke often now. No grand confessions, no forced healing. Just dinner on Wednesdays. A text here and there. He brought Alex to the park last weekend, and I taught him how to fly a kite. He laughed so hard when it got stuck in a tree. I nearly forgot how close I'd come to losing them both. That night, he called me. Mom, Alex wants to say something. I heard the tiny voice on the other end. Grandma, I'm not scared of dragons anymore. You made them go away. I smiled into the phone, my heart tight. No, sweetheart. You did that all by yourself. When I hung up, I left the light on in the kitchen not because I was afraid of the dark, but because someone small out there was still watching. Power, I'd learned, wasn't about how loudly you could win. It was about how quietly you could change everything. And walk away head high, heart whole, with no need to announce who you'd become. Because the people who matter already see you. And the ones who don't, they never did.